What TV/movie relationships did you once adore, but now look back, and it's totally toxic? Gotta go the classic, Han and Leia. I know, point I'm kinda glad they were no longer together in the new movies. I think it's realistic that their relationship wouldn't last. Anything with Harley Quinn and the Joker. I hate how women romanticize this couple. It's one of the most abusive relationships glorified in mainstream media. Exactly. When I was young and watching the animated series that introduced Holly, I was totally cool with the relationship. And then I grew up and realized how much of a shitheel the Joker is with how he treats Harley, and that later portrayals do not help at all. Give me Harley and Pamela any day of the week. Might be controversial given its current status, but friends, it's still hilarious. But now that I'm older I realize holy cow, these people are big time enablers/toxic as hell to each other. Yes, when I was growing up I was so for Ross and Rachel, but rewatching as an adult they never had a good relationship. Ted and Robin in How I Met Your Mother, and then Robin and Barney. In fact, with time and maturity I've come to realize that him in general was a misogynistic dumpster fire. My husband calls that show Why It's Totally Okay for Me to Screw Your Aunt Robin. Same. I can't think of one actually healthy relationship on there. Marshall and his sandwich. My best friend's wedding didn't age well for most 2019 sensibilities. Cameron Diaz is a college junior who is dropping out to marry a 28-year-old. Are we supposed to want a catfight over this mediocre man? I'm fond of the film for subverting the idea that we are supposed to be rooting for Julia Roberts' character because she's the main character, and also for John Denver on Helium, but that hasn't aged well. I suspect the problem is that you're supposed to hire Cameron Diaz at first thinking she's a shallow immature girl who just wants to get married, which is where that dropping out thing comes from. I just watched this movie and was appalled at all of the relationships. Not sure if this counts, since it's a movie adaptation of a book, but Edward and Bella in Twilight. When people described it to me, it sounded like grooming. Definitely grooming considering we know Edward is mentally an old man. First of all, why would he be attracted to a 16-year-old in the first place, unless it's because he knows he can control her? What could they possibly have in common? Throughout the series he gaslights her and gets mad when she does things he doesn't approve of, and it's overall very icky. I wanted Sasuke and Sakura to end up together so bad, even after he tried to kill her. But now they're finally together and are not the healthiest couple. Shocking. It's almost like the writers of the manga/anime got tired of people shipping them and were just like, here, is this what you wanted? Naruto is so damn weird, BC of this ship, TBH. Sarada constantly questions whether or not dad even loves Sakura. Sasuke/Sakura and Sasuke/Naruto. I could not figure why either of them cared so much for someone who from day one was apathetic to both of them. He ignored Sakura and was antagonistic to Naruto. There may have been rare moments where Sasuke was a bit decent, but mostly he was a complete asshole hellbent on destroying everything and everyone, so long as it meant he got his revenge. Sasuke fucked off for more than half the manga, while Naruto and Sakura made way better friends with the people who stuck around. Just look at all the rivalries Naruto had that turned into true friendships. But no, Naruto had to be all hung up on some moody little punk who ditched his ass. I never understood that. Leonard and Penny, The Big Bang Theory. Awful. He's with her because she's hot, and she's with him for validation. They are so fundamentally incompatible, and worst of all, they don't even like each other. Him pursuing her was maybe cute for season 1, but got sad really quick. It's so clear that Penny just settled and gave into a relationship with Leonard. He was much more compatible with Priya. Amy is so awkward and inappropriate. She has no boundaries in her friendship or relationship. She may want to be with Penny more than Sheldon. Hollywood and Raj. Hollywood is a terrible friend. Like beyond terrible. I don't have enough time or energy to list all the ways I stopped watching that show for a few reasons, but their relationship was definitely one of them. I'll add Sheldon and Amy to the list too. I mean, Amy is freaking rappy. That whole show is a mess of top relationships. Jaime and Cersei. Actually, maybe Game of Thrones should be held aloft in its entirety as a beacon of what not to do regarding relationships. Except for Grey Worm and Miss Andry, and Sam and Gilly. Rob and Talisa Stark were a lovely couple too. Renly and Loras were in a healthy, stable relationship, despite having to hide it. Miss Ella and Tristane probably would have been a healthy relationship if they'd had a chance. Ned and Kat's biggest issue was that Ned hid John's identity even from his wife out of loyalty to his sister. When Rogo's cultural beliefs regarding sex are challenged, he learns and changes. After that, after raping her, he is a good husband to Danny. Granted, most of what the made work was her doing. Ygritte and John are a mostly decent relationship with some cultural issues. That is the wildlings' penchant for violence. Jorah Mormont is a reasonable example of one way to behave when the person you love does not love you. It's not all bad. Sam and Gilly are always lovely to see together. Seeing Rob and Talisa in love was sort of sweet, but it bothered me, even before I knew what happened, cause it was so obviously the worst political move he could have made. The Starks are too emotional and honest, damn it. Well, many of them were. Is Jorah really doing the right thing for himself? It's best for the queen and her claim, of course, but it must be destroying him inside. The majority of relationships in the anime and manga I grew up with are absolutely disgusting in retrospect. Shishi and Goku. She is violent, and he is neglectful. Chiaki and Marin. He's a sexual predator. Kenshin and Koru. She is a minor, but I guess they never even kiss on screen aside from in that one over. Basically anything written by Arilette and Emura is full of romanticizing seriously unhealthy relationships. Except for maybe Full Moon Woe Saga Shite, where they actually show how weird and unhealthy all these relationships are. Not technically a movie, but Snape's obsession with Lily was weird, and not the slightest bit romantic. I cringe whenever I see people with always tattoos, or using that reference in their engagement / wedding / whatever. Oh, it's so romantic that Snape never stopped loving Lily. No, it isn't. It's creepy AF. She was nice to him for about 10 minutes when they were children, and 20 years later he's so obsessed over her that he's a jerk to her child because Harry reminds him that she chose someone else over his racist ass. Plus the whole you can murder James and the baby I jaff, but make sure you let Lily live so I can take another crack at her thing when he was a Death Eater. It's gross and creepy and awful. I mean, yeah, James wasn't exactly king of the awesomes when he was a kid, but he obviously got over the whole I'm super cool guy thing. Shit, he's the only one that really grew among the gang. Snape and Sirius were the same folks they were in high school, and that's fucking sad. I feel like the only reason that last bit made it to the final cut was because it was the twistiest plot twist Rowling could imagine. Like, so twisty that it made no sense, so there was no way a reader could have suspected it. I also think that's a bit of a lazy cop-out, since it made little sense for Snape loved Lily forever to have been the takeaway from the scenes that were actually in the book. What made sense was Snape and Lily were best friends as kids and teens. Then he became a racist asshole through his Nazi friends, so they broke off, and now he despises Harry because he reminds him that he couldn't have been with Lily, but now it's in a bad way. It's a story which presents him in a much worse light. Hell, even making him not actively despise Harry, but just being aloof and quiet would have made for a less gross I loved Lily reveal. But of course, if you had to reveal that a character who actually did try to help Harry loved his mom, no one would have been that surprised. Hell, the plot twisty Snape is a secret agent against Voldemort plotline was fine on its own. Didn't have to drop the love bit in it. It's like she couldn't think of a reason to make Snape a double agent, so she just went with the first thing she thought of. There are tons of reasons for it. He was in over his head. He was uncomfortable with the amount of murder going on. He grew up from being a snotty teen and realized that maybe Muggle-borns don't deserve to die just cause. All good and valid reasons for him to go well shit as an adult when he realized things were getting out of hand. But no, had to go with he was obsessed with Lily for years and years and only realized he shouldn't be a Death Eater because Voldemort killed her, even though he super pinky swore that he wouldn't, and now he'll never get one last shot with her thing. As a teen, when I read the books, I totally thought that Snape was in the right and OMG so romantic. But you read it as an adult, reading it as someone who is probably about as old as Snape was in the books, and you realize how fucking creep-tastic it is that he's still obsessively in love with someone he knew in high school. Like, move on, dude. The Phantom and Christine Daae. Yes, I was hoping someone would mention this one. I mean, it's obvious now that I'm older. The whole plot of the movie at least is about choosing love over infatuation. But my teenage self was definitely a hardcore fangirl. That couple from The Notebook. I watched it with friends who adored it when I was 14. Over the years I realized just how sexist and harmful it was, because the movie was basically saying it's okay for a woman to hit, scream, and punch a man for breaking up with her who isn't even fighting back. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.